Catch a bong side.
Them a go no.
Good thing them. The good thing them. The good thing them. The good thing. When we do road, me have to wear the good thing them. The good clothes and the good shoes them. Good chain and the good ring them. Me shopping at the mall at the good store them. My car when me drive at the good car them. No chicken head that does a good girl them. Pretty face with the good shape them. In a bun bush weed that does a good job.
Say, on the basis of production, and you said you guys recently found oil and all of that, so production is happening or about to happen. But from research, it said that Guyana, like as it relates to poverty, the statistics, roughly 2/3 of the population is, can be classified as poor. What do you think led your country to this, or led that subset of the country to being in that classification, to being a part of that classification?
And for that comes back to mindset, right? Because if you're fixed in your thinking, if you're stuck on issues, if you're not able to see possibilities, if you're not able to visualize and nurture visions, if you're not able to think outside of the box, be more creative and innovative, then you're going to be stuck where you are. You're not going to be able to attract opportunities. So when opportunities come to you, you're not going to be able to capitalize on them, because you wouldn't know how to do it, and you wouldn't know how to trust the process of doing it. So like that in particular, that for me is a huge mindset issue, and it just comes back to the fact that we got to grow past it. We really need to learn how to be more emotionally intelligent and work towards being better versions of ourselves. And again, not from a competitive stance, but really from a developmental stance, helping the economy to grow, recognizing that we each contribute, we each have talents and skills that are needed to contribute to growing one nation, rather than looking at each other and trying to pull each other down and trying to cut progress along the way. Because if you look at it like with us, that's something that we actually do. And we've seen it like in our political history, we've seen it over and over again, where like around elections, there's so much of fear of businesses facing the brunt of angry protesters. For example, they would walk the streets, they would burn buildings and pelt bottles and break glasses. So we have a history of that. And in this year's election, the fear of that did arise, and we had some unrest in Berbice just after the elections, before results were declared. We had unrest, we had deaths, we had looting, we had people burning tires on the road, some people getting hurt, their vehicles being damaged. It's like, how can you grow? How can a nation prosper? How can the people prosper if you're killing each other over a government? You're damaging each other's property over a government. I mean, there's so much of effort and time and energy that goes into accumulating wealth and goes into building oneself, and like getting a car. It could be like the greatest thing for a man, and then suddenly you're on the road and somebody just damages your vehicle, and how is that taken care of? And then the system is not very it's not very easy and flexible. I mean, you may have insurance, but it doesn't guarantee that you get coverage. I mean, you could be paying the insurance, but they're like right, and it's so dependent on various circumstances. It really is. But at the end of the day, it comes back to the mindset of the people. It comes back to like, who do you see yourself, and how do you see your neighbor? Like, are you competing, or are you willing to work with each other to build something?
And honestly, I think it's not just something in Guyana. It's like probably the world on a whole. But I mean, even us as Caribbean people, that is a major, major issue. But I don't know. These people, as you said, they're stuck in their ways, so it's gonna be
Yeah.
kind of hard to take them out of it. But
Hmm.
all we need is a little effort and try and see what will happen. So, Guyana, your national dish there is the pepper pot, right?
Well, yeah, but we have several.
They have several, but that's the main one because you know if you do several
Cassava bread, yeah, yeah.
it's the pepper
There's a cassava bread on the pepper pot.
cassava bread. So that is
Hmm.
made from
That's
cassava.
Amerindian, the Amerindian dish,
So which one
cassava bread.
do you?
And paiwari,
What's that?
that's a alcoholic drink.
Oh, so out of the cassava bread and the pepper pot, which one would you say is your favorite?
But I go for pepper pot, but not beef. I would more go for like a goat or mutton pepper pot.
Oh, maybe it's the Indian side in you, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it is like I don't eat beef, so
Okay, because you know you Indians love the curry and they love curry.
not really.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of curry.
Okay. But as you said earlier though, the whole looting and the whole madness during the election time and all of that. I would I don't know if it's safe to say, but I would say that's probably more of the American side of Guyana and probably not the Caribbean side. Because really and truly you don't hear much of that happening in the Caribbean. I know you have the murders, the corruption, all of that, which we can't seem to get past, but you know you don't really hear about the looting and all of that, mashing up.
But that kind of reaction has been historic to us. Like we are accustomed to the people walking the streets and um, kind of like a bullyism, if you want to say. But it's really them believing that they're fighting for their rights and they need to be seen and heard, and this is the way they're going to be seen and heard. So I mean, even though like an outsider may look at it and say, look at these people, that they're just destroying each other and destroying property and so forth, the people, the group of people and the groups of them really believe that what they're doing is right and they're fighting for a good cause. And if they don't do it this way, then no one else, there's no other way. And I guess it comes back to the intelligence of the people and how in control they are of themselves, how in control they are of the information they're receiving, or if they're just deluded by their leaders or people who they believe in. So it comes back to, for me, it really does come back to mindset. Like, because if you're not working towards developing yourself and evolving, if you're not working towards like being intuitive and knowing yourself, then anyone can come and tell you anything and you'll believe it, and then you will act on it. And that's what's been happening. People believe in their leaders, they believe in specific political parties,
Right.
and they act on what they're told. They act on the information that they're fed with, and that leads to every other thing. So
Okay. So as yeah, so as being a part of the Caribbean, and I would say when it comes to media and communications, we're kind of should I say big on it? Where we love to be up in the cameras, we love to be talking and all of that. Do you think, or has media in your country always played an important role?
yeah, I do. And it's becoming more and more important.
Mm-hmm.
Like due to COVID, for example, everyone's stuck at home, and we rely on the media to keep us informed. We rely on the media to spread awareness and take precautionary measures.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And in with our recent elections fiasco, the media played a huge role in keeping the people informed of what was really happening. in, for example, when votes were being counted and when the attempts were made to declare a government without votes being completed, before without the count being completed, those kind of things. So like they've had a lot of Facebook lives, they had a lot of videos, um, they had frequent updates. It was just interesting, but we did rely on it because only with that information then everyone else knew what was taking place, how it was happening. People saw exactly and heard word for word, so they had firsthand experience in their own way. So media really does play a huge role for us here.
So you'd say in a time like this, during the whole pandemic, you'd say the whole media aspect of your country has progressively begun to play a huge role. Like, has it
Mhm.
always been this way?
Yes, we've always been relying on our media. We've always been relying on the television, the news agencies, the radio networks. We've been relying on them all to keep us informed of what's happening. Because that's where most of our news come from.
Right.
Then there's a newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
If the media is impartial, if they are unbiased, can't really say that because I haven't exactly encountered one that isn't. I
Right.
haven't encountered one that is objective. So the media does play a role too in the kind of beliefs that the people nurture,
Right.
because the way in which they tell their story, it's the way in which the people learn it,
Mm-hmm.
and that forms their beliefs. So even they play a part in the mindset that we have.
Okay. So which forms of media would you say developed consistently over the years? Like,
The radio for me, our radio network has really grown, and we've had more channels. We have um, more entertainers on the radio. We have more news outlets on the radio. The consistent has outlets have been really consistent. Like for example, there's the Kaitra News and the Chronicle News, um, Guyana Times newspaper. Those are all agencies that have been consistent in sharing information.
mm,
But growth, I've seen a lot of growth in our radio networks.
okay.
And
Right.
then now too, like with our television, the government relies upon the Guyana Learning Channel to teach our kids and keep them engaged during this pandemic and while they're at home. So even the government is making use of our media and
Right.
ensuring that we are in a better place.
Exactly. Because in this time, in this pandemic, so firstly, in the pandemic, do you guys have face to face school or do you have work from home?
Um, we've had closure up
Mm-hmm.
until last week.
Oh,
Actually up until this week, November 9th, where the government had decided that the fourth, fifth, and sixth formers will be headed back to school because CXC
right.
has published a timetable and the students need to prepare for exams. So our kids, the fourth, fifth, and sixth formers, are back in school. The grade six students are not in school as yet because they would have said that we actually have control over when those students can write exams because that's a local exam.
Oh, yeah.
But CXE exam is not local,
Yeah.
so they have no control over it.
It's for all of us here in the Caribbean, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, not bad. All right. So, in Guyana,
Mm-hmm.
what are some nice places? Like, if I was to come, which I want to, don't know when, but it's
Mm-hmm.
in future plans. Where would you recommend, or where are nice places you think you have in your country?
Well, we are very big on tourist attractions. Like we have the Iroquois Marine Forest. That's a beautiful place to be. There is the Kaiju Falls, many other small falls like the Orange Falls. We have different resorts.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's Main State, there is Aruwai, there is Baganara. There's so many, like we have lots of creeks and resorts and waterfalls but I'm a water person, so I
Me
love
too.
going in that direction. But like if you're looking for like social outings and so there is like Movie Town, the Tikiplan Mall. There are the malls that you can visit, and it's easier to now to move around the country in that we have like we have good relationship with our bordering countries, so persons can travel
Right.
from Guyana to Suriname and from Guyana to Brazil. There's the road
Yeah,
and the
because you're
walkways.
closer to that side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Countries are
um,
right beside you.
mhm.
But
So there are options.
if you were supposed to come to Jamaica, a flight to Jamaica, I think it's harder. Don't you guys have straight flights here to Jamaica?
Um,
Or it's
I
kind of,
think so. Yeah, I think we do. Yeah,
oh,
I
because I
think we
know
do.
from Jamaica, I don't know what it is, but to go to Caribbean countries, or you have to stop in Trinidad or you have to stop over here just to reach
Yes, sometimes.
right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
But
yeah. But I think we do have straight flights from Ghana to Jamaica.
okay, so that's not bad. All right, so next question. Do you think the Caribbean is unified, integrated, or separated?
I think we're unified. I think we work towards helping each other. I think a lot of our development is um, interrelated.
Mhm.
And like for example, when we had this huge oil discovery in Guyana, Trinidad was willing to give us advice on what to do and what not to do.
Right.
And and Trinidad was struggling with their oil
Yeah,
industry.
right.
So I mean, like that is an example of the kind of relationships, the strength of the relationships that we share. So I do think we're unified and we're looking out for each other. And in particular, the Caribbean has helped Guyana significantly in our recent elections. I mean, without the supervision of CARICOM, a
Right.
recon could not have been possible.
Without
Right? Yeah.
the Caribbean members.
Right.
Yeah. All right. On the topic of culture now, though, do you think the Guyanese culture is similar? Or first, how often have you been to Jamaica? How often?
Just that one time.
Just that one time? Oh,
Yeah, in 2015.
so probably you wouldn't be able to give a comparison of what you've seen culture-wise.
I I think Jamaica's culture is different from Guyana's culture from what I would have seen and would have experienced.
Mm.
I think Guyana's culture is very similar to Trinidad's culture,
Yeah.
and
See
like
that
when
you guys both have the Indo-Guyanese,
yeah, yeah,
Afro-Guyanese, right? So
yeah, and
yeah, it
like
would,
when I research it too, it does show it that we're very much same.
right.
Very much.
Because in Guyana, you guys have mostly like Indians, right?
Right.
Just
But we have two main we have six ethnic groups,
hmm
but the two largest would be the Afro Guyanese and the Indian
and the
Guyanese.
Indo-Guyanese. Okay. And I think it's the same for Trinidad. They have the Indo.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, that Jamaica, we have a wide mixture, but out of many one people, we're still here, we're still together, and we're all a
Hmm.
part of the Caribbean. All right, so still on the topic of culture, do you think culture has had an impact, like let's say, yeah, impact in general, whether negative or positive? Do you think it has had an impact on development in your country?
Yes, I do see culture. playing a role in Guyana's development in that you have many cultural persons, like persons who, like Amerindians, for example, they use their culture to create a livelihood. Like um, they would do like their knitting and their sewing, and they would sell their foods and their drinks, and that's small business for them.
Right.
We have a lot of people who are interested in like in crafts. They would like sell their artwork and those kind of things. All of that is a part of our development.
Yes, it is.
um we have the Indians. You can walk into Angie's, for example, that's an Indian store, and get a galore of Indian wear, like everything
Start
everything
with
Indian.
that.
Yeah, and I mean, culture helps for me in our business development. You have a lot of small businesses um, that are using their cultural interests and where they've come from um, to support the needs of those in that culture, those in those groups, and they're earning a living from it.
And as you mentioned, small businesses impacting the development.
Right.
In a time like now, with COVID being in our lives, you'd say that small businesses have grown now.
Um, yeah, I've noticed a lot of small businesses have cropped up, and more so you're finding a lot of the vendors are now on the road. Like you're seeing like roadsides, so you're seeing a lot of new stalls, a lot of people setting up places, and I mean it's all good, but
Mm-hmm.
we need a little bit of regulation to keep um you
Keep it
know
under control.
yeah, keep the place organized.
Right.
Yeah, but I think small businesses have um definitely pivoted during this time.
Okay, that's good. Same here in Jamaica. A lot of new businesses have evolved, and a lot of people started businesses, being at home for so long. Your hands
Yeah,
get to work, or your brains get to work more. So
right.
a lot of new ideas came about. But I'm glad that culture in itself is playing a role in development in your country.
Yeah.
So, and to add to that, how has being a, let's say, young independent country, because it's still young. So, how has being a young independent state of England, because you guys were first colonized by the Dutch and then Britain took over, but you gained independence. So, as being a young independent state of England, how has that shaped your cultural identity as a country? How do you think that shaped Guyana's identity?
I think because we are so because you see that at the time when we gained our independence,
Mm-hmm.
we had already gained independence, for example, from slavery, and
Right.
then there was indentureship. So freedom in particular is something that is extremely important for every Guyanese. And you find that we rebel when we feel as if our rights are violated, and we're not giving that freedom. So I think in particular, because of the fact that we were once colonized and we gained our freedom, no one can really come and tell anyone else what to do and how to behave. You're gonna get abused out. You don't own me.
I
That's
am
the
my
kind of
own
reaction.
person.
Yeah, I'm my own person, and this kind of rebelliousness, it's intergenerational. Like it comes from back in the days, because that 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 was the fight. The fight was to be seen and heard. Back then, it was collectively for the people to really be recognized as groups. Now I find that the struggle is a little more intense because people are now seeking to, like at least the younger generation is seeking for their individual identity.
Oh,
They're trying to make it on their own and to show that they can make it on their own. And this is where to me the culture is shifting,
right.
and it's coming with that shift in mindset. And I find too, like from working with people and being out there teaching, interacting. I find that's where many of the younger or the younger generation is not feeling supported enough. So you have many maladaptive behaviors coming up, like persons are feeling very stressed and overwhelmed and depressed. You have a lot of depressed youths. And I think it's really because of that cultural shift where they can't stand being controlled anymore. They can't stand or they're finding it very difficult to live up to everyone's expectations. They're really seeking their identity as a person. And because they're not being supported by like the older generation, by their parents and those they're interacting with, it's creating that inner struggle.
Understood, because I think that's a problem here too. And the older generation or parents and family members or even outsiders, they want you to be this specific person. Like,
Yeah.
say for example, I want to be a creative, but traditional ways, they want you to be a doctor, a lawyer,
Right.
but I think they just need to give us freedom, allow us to express ourselves, and we'll be fine.
They're afraid to do that. What if you make a mess of your life? That's the first thing.
That's the first thought they have. But I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes if you force somebody to do something they don't want to do, you're not gonna get the best out of them.
Well, that's the rebel, right? The rebel that
So
Right.
maybe they should just give it a try.
Yeah, maybe. I believe so.
Silly question now. Not really silly, but if you were to, how should I put it? All right, would you prefer to be identified as a Guyanese or just a Caribbean citizen, a citizen of the Caribbean?
Like
What if, sorry, not to cut you, but what if that was a thing that was supposed to happen? Would you choose to have your nationality taken away from you and you just be identified as a Caribbean citizen, or do you prefer to be identified as a Guyanese?
um it's funny the way in which you word it. Generally I wouldn't I don't have an attachment per se to I am Guyanese and you need to recognize me as a Guyanese. It can work both ways. Like I can be identified as a Caribbean citizen because that's what I am. I'm all about the Caribbean and developing the people of the Caribbean, helping people to really become better versions of themselves, whether it's at home or the Caribbean or the world altogether. So that in particular like doesn't I can't relate to it if I want to be a Guyanese, and because I wouldn't consider being a Caribbean citizen option of giving up my identity as a Guyanese. I wouldn't see it that way. But like if I had to choose, though, like if you're asking to choose, um, if I would give up that, like if I
Yeah.
had to choose between being a Caribbean citizen and saying I'm a Guyanese, I would say I'm a Guyanese.
Okay.
Because Guyanese comes with so much. There's so much attached to that, like, and there's so much attached to it that would have groomed me or shaped me to being who I am.
Mhm.
So, yeah, if you have to choose, I would choose Guyanese. But on a general scale, I'm a Caribbean citizen.
Yes, we are Caribbean citizens. Okay. So, are there any questions you want to ask me?
No, no, good.
All right. Well, it was really great doing this interview with you. I really thought I would have been a little jittery and nervous, but it feels as if I knew you from, long ago. So it really
Yeah,
wasn't bad. And I hope you enjoyed all my questions and the whole interaction.
it
So,
was a great interaction.
and I hope I do get a great grade on this
Pretty
assignment.
sure you will. I'm pretty sure you will.
So thanks very much and be safe.
You too. Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Catch a bong side. Them a go no. Good thing them. The good thing them. The good thing them. The good thing. When me do road, me have to wear the good thing them. The good clothes and the good shoes them. Good chain and the good ring them. Me shopping at the mall at the good store them. My car when me drive at the good car them. No chicken head that does a good girl them. Pretty face with the good shape them. In a bun bush weed that does a good job.